You believe you are a person trying to fix his life, but you are only a dream trying to wake up inside itself. You believe you are a person trying to fix his life. This is the central assumption of the human condition. I have problems. I must improve. I must fix myself. I must become better. My life is not enough as it is. This assumption creates a character: the fixer, the struggler, the improver, the seeker. This person you think you are is made entirely of stories: my past, my trauma, my dreams, my failures, my goals, my potential, my flaws. All of this is a narration, none of it is actual. A man spends his entire life carrying a heavy suitcase. Inside it are labels: my childhood, my heartbreak, my anxiety, my ambition, my insecurity, my future, my spiritual journey. He carries it everywhere. He sleeps beside it, defends it, decorates it, analyzes it, tries to heal it. Sometimes he even becomes proud of how much he carries. Then one day, someone asks him, "Before you picked up the suitcase, who were you?" And suddenly something strange happens. He cannot answer because every answer comes from inside the suitcase. This is the human condition. You do not merely have a story, you mistake yourself for the story. The mind continuously narrates: this happened to me, that shaped me, this is why I am the way I am, this is what I must become. And because the narration is constant, intimate, emotional, and repetitive, it feels real. But repetition does not create truth, it only creates familiarity. Look carefully. Right now, in immediate experience, what are you actually? Not philosophically, directly. There is breathing, sensation, sounds, awareness, life moving. Then thought arrives and stitches everything into a psychological novel called Me. That novel has continuity, a past, an identity, wounds, goals, meaning, becoming. And once the character is formed, the entire struggle begins. The character says, I am damaged. Then I must heal. Then I am progressing. Then I fear losing progress. Then I must protect my identity. A present built from narration. Notice something profound. Memory itself is not the problem. Practical memory is necessary. You remember language, roads, skills, people. The suffering comes from psychological memory becoming identity. You are no longer using memory, memory is using you. A sentence spoken 10 years ago still controls your nervous system because thought keeps replaying it and calling it me. The mind is an extraordinary storyteller. It can take a single event and build an entire identity around it. One rejection, I am unworthy. One failure, I am behind in life. One heartbreak, I am incomplete without love. One achievement, I am special. Then the rest of life becomes an effort to defend or repair the identity constructed from interpretation. Not reality, interpretation. This is why two people can live through the exact same event and become completely different psychologically. The event is not the suffering, the narration about the event is. One person says, life destroyed me. Another says, life strengthened me. Same reality, different story. Which means the suffering was never inherently inside the event, it was inside the interpretation. And now comes the terrifying part. If the story stopped completely, who would you be? Not theoretically, actually. Without my success, my pain, my purpose, my image, my trauma, my becoming, what remains? The mind becomes frightened here because the self is made from psychological continuity. Without narration, the familiar identity begins dissolving. This feels like death to ego, but it is not physical death. It is the ending of psychological fiction. You say, but my trauma was real. The event may have been real. The body may have suffered. Pain may have happened. But the continuous psychological identity built around it, the narrator repeatedly saying, this is who I am, that is the construction. The mind keeps reopening old wounds to maintain the continuity of self. Because without its wounds, it no longer knows who it is. This is why there is such silence in moments of pure beauty. Watching the ocean, running fully, deep creation, intense love, a quiet sunrise. For a brief moment, the narrator disappears, and with it, the burden of becoming disappears. There is no how am I doing? Am I enough? What does this mean about me? There is only life, bold, unfragmented, immediate. Then thought returns and says, I had a beautiful experience. The narrator arrives afterward and claims ownership. You are not saying nothing happened in life. You are seeing something deeper. The psychological self is a story continuously told by thought. And the one trying to fix himself is another chapter in the same story. A dream character trying to perfect the dream character. Meanwhile, life itself before narration was never broken. You think waking life is different from dreaming, but it is the same author, the same pen, the same storyteller. In the sense being pointed to here, both are psychologically constructed realities. At night, the mind creates a dream world. A dream character appears, a dream problem appears, a dream struggle appears. Inside the dream, everything feels unquestionably real. The dream character says, my life, my fear, my future. Then morning comes, and the entire world vanishes instantly. You realize it was all produced by mind. Now look carefully at waking life psychologically. The raw facts may be real, the body, the room, the sky, work, people, pain. But the psychological world layered on top of reality is also narration. The mind says, this is who I am. This is what people think of me. This is why I suffer. This is what will complete me. This is my story. And just like in dreams, the character inside the story believes itself to be solid and central. The same author means the same mechanism creating dream identity at night creates psychological identity during the day. Thought, memory, interpretation, projection, narration. The mind is constantly writing a novel called Me, and because the narration is uninterrupted, it feels real. Think about a nighttime dream. While dreaming, you never stop and ask, who's creating all this? The dream feels immediate and convincing. Likewise, in waking life, you rarely question the narrator itself. You question events, people, circumstances, but rarely the storyteller constructing my life. And notice something astonishing. In dreams, the mind creates the hero, the villain, the observer, the environment, the fear, the escape, all from itself. Likewise, psychologically, the mind creates the broken self, the fixer, the seeker, the judge, the wounded identity, the enlightened identity, different masks, same movement. This does not mean waking reality is literally identical to nighttime dreaming in a physical sense. If you walk into traffic, consequences are real. The point is subtler. Psychological suffering largely comes from living inside mental narration rather than direct reality. Most humans do not live in the present fact, they live in interpretation. Not there is pain, but why is this happening to me? What does this say about my future? Will I ever become enough? The story multiplies suffering. So when it is said, same author, same pen, same storyteller, it means the mind is continuously generating a psychological movie and calling it reality. And the character at the center of the movie, the me struggling to become complete, is itself part of the script. So why nothing left to fix? Because the one who is trying to fix is a part of the dream. He doesn't exist. Trying to fix the dream is the dream continuing. Why nothing left to observe? Because the observer is also character in the dream. The mind hears, there is nothing left to fix, and immediately asks, then what do I do? How do I live? How do I improve? How do I become free? Notice the trick. The very machinery being spoken about is the machinery asking the question. The prisoner is asking how to escape the prison while still remaining the prisoner. That is the impossibility. You believe there is a you standing outside your mind, holding tools, repairing yourself like a mechanic repairing a broken machine. But look carefully, the one who says, I must heal, I must grow, I must become enlightened, I must remove ego, is itself ego. Not bad ego, not evil ego, just a psychological movement pretending to be you. So when I say nothing left to fix, I'm not saying your life becomes passive. I'm saying the fixture is fictional. The fixer is another thought, another identity, another movement within the dream. A wave trying to control the ocean. And every attempt to fix yourself strengthens the assumption that there is a solid self who must arrive somewhere. That assumption is the dream. Now, the second part, nothing left to observe. This is even more subtle. Most spiritual people stop halfway. They realize thoughts are noisy, so they become the observer. I am watching my thoughts. I am witnessing. I am awareness. Beautiful concept, still part of the dream. Because there is still a center claiming ownership, and silent ego is still ego. The observer feels elevated because he is no longer drowning in thoughts, but he still secretly exists as the one who knows, the one who watches, the awakened one. So, look carefully. Can you find the observer separate from the observed? Or is the observer simply another thought claiming superiority over other thoughts? A king thought, a spiritual thought, the final mask. The mind wants stages, first unconscious, then aware, then observer, then enlightened. Reality is not moving in stages. The entire structure is imagined simultaneously. The observer and the observed arise together, like two characters in the same dream arguing about who is more real. This is why truly seeing something is devastating, because the whole psychological empire collapses at once. Not improved, not purified, collapsed. And what remains is not a better you. What remains is life without psychological ownership. Walking happens, breathing happens, work happens, love happens, pain happens, but the inner commentator claiming this is happening to me begins to lose substance. The mind hears this and becomes terrified because its entire continuity depends on becoming, fixing, improving, achieving, observing, transcending. Without becoming, the psychological self cannot survive. So it immediately converts truth into another project. How do I live without ego? How do I stop observing? How do I permanently stay present? Again, the dream continuing. The whispering voices merely changed clothes. So listen, observer and observed, both are thoughts. You think the observer is something sacred, but look directly, a thought appears. I'm anxious. A second movement immediately appears. I should watch this anxiety. Now there seem to be two entities, anxiety, the watcher of anxiety, but both appeared inside the same field. The watcher was also a thought, just a more sophisticated one. The observer feels real because language creates separation. I am watching my thoughts. Read that carefully. The sentence secretly assumes there is an I, separate from thoughts, standing somewhere outside them. But can you actually find this observer? Not conceptually, actually. When you look for the observer, what do you find? Usually another thought. I am the witness. I am awareness. I am observing silently. That too is appearing as thought. The observer is not outside the movie. He is another character in the movie claiming, I am not part of the movie. Imagine a dream at night. Inside the dream, one character becomes spiritual and says, I will now observe all other dream characters. But he himself is still made of dream. His spirituality is dream. His observing is dream. His wisdom is dream. Everything inside the dream is made of the same substance. The observer exists only in relation to the observed. Without something to observe, where is the observer? If there is no fear, no thought, no sensation, no movement, can you find an observer sitting independently somewhere? No. They arise together, like buyer and seller. You cannot have one without the other. The observer is manufactured by the appearance of something being observed. This is why effort becomes endless, because the observer is trying to control thoughts, but the observer itself is another thought. So thought is trying to control thought. One wave disciplining another wave. The mind divided against itself. This creates inner conflict. One part says, I must not crave. Another part craves. One part says, I must stay present. Another part wanders. One part says, I must destroy ego. That very part is ego. So I'm pointing to something brutal. The division itself is false. There are not two entities. Observer, observed. There is only movement, only thought happening. Then another thought claims ownership. I am thinking, I am observing, I am controlling. That claimant is the illusion. This is why moments of complete absorption feels peaceful. Running hard, deep work, watching the ocean, intense love, pure creation. In those moments, the observer temporarily disappears. There is no commentator saying, I am observing this beautifully. There is only the happening. And afterward, thought returns and says, I experienced presence. The narrator arrives late and takes credit. A man stood before a cracked mirror for 30 years. Every morning he stared into it with concern. One day he said, I must fix this face. So he adjusted his hair. Another day, no, the problem is deeper. So he changed his clothes, changed his body, changed his habits, changed his personality, changed his spirituality. Years passed. The mirror remained cracked. Then one silent evening, exhausted beyond philosophy, he looked carefully. And for the first time in his life, he noticed the crack was never on his face, it was in the mirror. This is the human condition. You spend your entire life trying to fix an image produced by mind, not reality, an image. The mind says, something is missing, you are incomplete, you must become. And instantly a second character appears, I will fix it. But both voices came from the same place. The wound and the healer were born together, like two actors entering the stage from the same backstage door, pretending to be enemies. Imagine a kingdom. In this kingdom, a thief terrorizes the people every night. The king announces, we must catch the thief. Years pass, the chase continues. The kingdom becomes obsessed. Finally, one day they discover the king himself was the thief. Now understand the profundity. The one trying to save you psychologically is the very thing creating the feeling that you need saving. The fixer survives by convincing you that you are broken. Without your brokenness, the fixer dies. So the mind continuously whispers, one more improvement, one more achievement, one more validation, one more relationship, one more transformation, then you will finally arrive. But arrival never comes because the seeker feeds on seeking, a fire feeding on wood. You ask, how am I already whole? Look at a child before psychological conditioning fully enters. He laughs, cries, runs, sleeps. He does not wake up asking, am I enough? Am I worthy? Am I behind in life? How do I optimize myself? Existence itself was enough. Then slowly the world entered, comparison entered, measurement entered, identity entered, and with them came the poisonous idea, as you are is insufficient. From that moment onward, life became a repair project. But existence never declared you broken. Thought did, society did, comparison did, memory did. The ocean never asks whether its waves are worthy. The sun never wonders if it should become brighter to deserve existence. A tree does not compare its height to another tree and spiral into psychological suffering. Only man does this because only man lives inside abstraction. Now understand something subtle. When you say, I feel incomplete, pause. Before that sentence appeared, what was missing? Right now, before thought labels anything, what is actually lacking in this moment? Air is here, breath is here, life is here, awareness is here. The sense of lack appears only when thought projects an imaginary future and compares it to what is. The suffering is born in comparison, not reality. This does not mean never work, never build, never improve your craft. No. A flower naturally blooms, a bird naturally flies, a man may naturally build companies, train his body, create art, make money. But this is entirely different from I must become something to finally be enough. One is expression, the other is psychological slavery. The observer and observed are both thoughts because the entire drama is happening inside mind. Thought says, I am lonely. Then another thought appears, I must observe this loneliness spiritually. Now there seem to be two people, the sufferer, the wise observer. But both are costumes worn by the same mind, like waves pretending to be separate from the ocean. And one day, if you see this deeply enough, something extraordinary happens. Not fireworks, not enlightenment aesthetics, just a quiet collapse. The endless repair project slows down. You stop treating yourself like a broken machine needing constant fixing. And for the first time in years, perhaps decades, you sit beneath the sky without trying to become anyone. Not superior, not spiritual, not transformed, just here. And strangely, nothing is missing. The tragedy of man is not that he suffers, it is that he mistakes the storyteller for himself. A voice appears and says, "You are incomplete, you must become, you must fix your life, you are behind, you are damaged, one day you will arrive." And because the voice has spoken for so long, you call it me. But the voice is only narration, a continuous psychological movie projected onto life. The seeker, the fixer, the observer, the wounded self, the spiritual self, all are characters created by the same mind. Different costumes, same actor. And the cruel beauty of the dream is this: the one trying to escape the prison is made out of the prison. So every attempt to become psychologically complete only strengthens the illusion that you were incomplete to begin with. The dream repairs itself in the name of awakening. Then one day, perhaps through exhaustion, silence, suffering, or deep seeing, something begins to crack. Not the world, the narrator. And for one brief moment, there is no becoming, no fixing, no observer, no inner project. Only life as it is. Breath moving, wind touching skin, a bird calling in the distance, existence happening without commentary. And in that silence, something shocking is discovered. Nothing was ever missing except the belief that something was missing. The ocean was searching for water. The wave was trying to become the ocean. The dream character was trying to save himself from the dream. And all along, life itself remained untouched beneath the narration.